Sometimes the universe speaks in whispers, the faint glow of a nova, the slow drift of a comet, the pulse of the solar wind. But other times, it roars. In the last few days, our planet has trembled beneath 2 magnitude 6+ earthquakes in Venezuela, even as the night sky lit up with the violent explosions of 2 novas and a coronal mass ejection slammed into the mysterious interstellar visitor known as 3I Atlas. To dismiss this as coincidence is tempting, but the timing is too precise, too deliberate. Cosmic fire above, seismic chaos below, all converging just as 3I Atlas races closer to its rendezvous with the inner solar system. And if history has taught us anything, it is that when the heavens move violently, Earth often answers in kind. These were not random events, they were signals. And the most terrifying part? This is only the beginning. On September 24th, within hours of one another, 2 powerful earthquakes ripped through Venezuela. First a magnitude 6.2, then a 6.3, followed by a 5.8 aftershock. Seismologists were stunned by how similar the quakes were. Nearly identical magnitudes, striking the same fault zone in rapid succession, as if the Earth's crust had been jolted twice in rhythm with some greater force. To the untrained eye, they were just another pair of quakes in a restless world. But to those who study the deep connections between solar activity and seismic stress, the timing was impossible to ignore. Just as these quakes struck, the solar wind density around Earth dropped anomalously low, creating conditions long associated with seismic triggers. It was as though the Earth, suddenly unshielded, expanded into the vacuum and tore along its weakest seams. And while Venezuela reeled, the waves of those tremors rippled outward, picked up by seismic networks across North America, reaching as far as Alaska. The planet had spoken, loudly and clearly, at the very moment 3I Atlas crossed into a new chapter of its approach. Even as the ground shook, the heavens were writing their own warnings. 2 novas, V7994 Sagittari and V1935 Centauri, erupted almost simultaneously, flooding the galaxy with gamma rays and X-rays, bursts so powerful they could be detected across the solar system. Novas are not rare, but their timing in relation to seismic events on Earth has long been noted, stretching back to chronicles where exploding stars were seen as omens of upheaval. Only days earlier, these novas were invisible, unknown. Then, suddenly, they blazed into view, one even visible to the naked eye in the southern hemisphere. Astronomers debated whether this was mere coincidence, but to those watching closely, the pattern was clear. In July, twin novas had lit the skies just before an 8.8 megaquake struck Russia. And now, again, novas above, earthquakes below. The Earth and the cosmos seemed locked in a dialogue, a call and response between distant stars and fragile crust. And standing at the center of this exchange was 3I Atlas, absorbing a solar storm and growing ever brighter, as though feeding on the very chaos around it. On September 25th, a coronal mass ejection, a vast eruption of plasma from the Sun, tore through the solar system and struck 3I Atlas directly. For ordinary comets, such an impact can strip away gas, sever tails, and leave them diminished. But 3I Atlas is no ordinary comet. When earlier CMEs struck it in July, its coma didn't shrink. It expanded, brightening nearly 20 times, glowing with an intensity that no model predicted. Now, with the object closer to Mars and inside denser solar winds, the effect of this new CME is expected to be even more dramatic. Professional telescopes already record conflicting images, some showing a tail stretching away from the Sun, others showing material pushing sunward, as if the object is both absorbing and resisting the solar wind. It is a paradox, a shape-shifting enigma in space. And yet, every time it is struck, it grows stronger. The Sun lashes out, and 3I Atlas answers by expanding, like something awakening with each blow. Whatever it is not weakening. It is preparing. When you step back and see the entire picture, the pattern is undeniable. Novas erupting with impossible timing, earthquakes striking in lockstep with drops in solar wind density, the Sun itself bombarding 3I Atlas only to see it flare brighter and more dangerous. It is as if the solar system has entered a state of resonance, each event amplifying the next, cascading towards something larger. Astronomers warn that October will bring even greater tests. 3I Atlas will pass within 0.2 astronomical units of Mars, then align in superior conjunction with Earth on October 21st, the very same day comet Swan makes its closest approach to our planet. Two cosmic wanderers, one interstellar, one solar-born, converging with Earth caught between them, as novas and quakes ripple in the background. The question is no longer whether these events are connected. The question is what happens when the resonance peaks. Because if two earthquakes and two novas are only the opening notes, then what awaits in the coming weeks may be far more devastating, not just for Earth, but for the stability of the entire solar system. As the seismic alarms from Venezuela still echoed, oceanographic instruments began to register strange disturbances across the world's waters. Buoys in the Pacific recorded sudden fluctuations in pressure, as if invisible waves were rippling through the deep sea without any storm or tectonic trigger. In the Atlantic, tide gauges reported brief but measurable shifts in sea level, out of sync with both lunar tides and prevailing winds. Even more unnerving, microseisms, low-frequency vibrations usually driven by storms, appeared in the absence of significant weather, their rhythm disturbingly close to the pulse intervals detected in 3I Atlas's crimson glow. To geophysicists, this suggested that the oceans themselves might be resonating with a force beyond Earth, picking up faint but steady vibrations delivered through the magnetosphere and crust. The oceans are Earth's lungs, driving climate, weather, and balance. If they are beginning to vibrate in sympathy with an interstellar visitor, then the risks stretch far beyond earthquakes. They could extend to tsunamis, disrupted currents, and a destabilized climate itself. Attention soon shifted outward, toward Mars, which sat perilously close to 3I Atlas's path. Unlike Earth, Mars lacks a protective global magnetic field, leaving it exposed to the raw chaos of solar storms and cosmic disturbances. And now, with the comet's swollen coma absorbing and redirecting solar plasma, instruments around the red planet began to record phenomena no one had predicted. Orbital probes saw strange auroral glows spreading across its thin skies, far brighter than anything solar wind alone could generate. Meanwhile, seismic instruments from NASA's InSight mission picked up quakes that seemed to coincide with the object's flaring episodes, as if Mars itself were trembling in reply. The implications were staggering. If Mars, a barren world, could be stirred into activity by this visitor, what might happen to Earth with its complex systems of oceans, atmosphere, and tectonic plates? Mars may be the warning, the testbed showing us in advance how deep 3I Atlas's influence can truly run. As the patterns grew harder to deny, historians turned back to ancient texts, and what they found was chilling. Chinese astronomers wrote of red stars with tails like banners that appeared in the sky just before great quakes destroyed cities. Babylonian tablets spoke of fiery sky torches preceding the shaking of walls and the flooding of fields. Even medieval manuscripts from Europe described blood-colored comets arriving in the same seasons as devastating earthquakes and famine. For centuries, these accounts were dismissed as superstition, the fearful imagination of cultures that lacked scientific understanding. But now, with 3I Atlas glowing crimson in our telescopes, novas erupting in synchrony with quakes, and Earth trembling beneath our feet, those records feel less like myth and more like testimony. Perhaps the ancients weren't wrong. Perhaps they understood, in ways we are only now rediscovering, that comets are not silent visitors. They are catalysts, stirring the heavens and the Earth together in a resonance that rewrites history. Each day that passes pulls the pieces of this cosmic puzzle tighter. The novas that erupted may already be fading from sight, but their energy still travels, invisible waves racing across space. The Venezuelan quakes may have quieted, but seismic networks continue to hum with unusual activity. The sun grows angrier, its surface boiling with hundreds of sunspots, each capable of unleashing a storm. And at the center of it all, 3I Atlas races closer, its coma brightening, its behavior defying every model. The calendar shows what comes next. In mid-October, it brushes past Mars, and on the 21st, it aligns in superior conjunction with Earth, placing us directly into the same solar current sheet it occupies. To have one cosmic visitor in such a position would already be extraordinary. But with comet SWAN also nearing its closest approach at the same time, we are staring at a convergence of forces unseen in modern history. If the opening act of this drama brought earthquakes and novas, then the alignment ahead may bring consequences on a scale we cannot yet imagine. As the Crimson Visitor drew closer, seismologists noticed something even more disturbing than the Venezuelan quakes themselves. Instruments designed to detect microtremors began picking up a strange rhythmic vibration buried deep in Earth's crust. At first, it seemed like background noise, but soon patterns emerged. The pulses were repeating in intervals suspiciously close to the 84.6-second rhythm recorded in 3I Atlas's glow. It was as if the ground itself had begun to echo the heartbeat of the interstellar object. The phenomenon wasn't isolated. From South America to Asia, seismographs displayed the same faint but undeniable pulse. The Earth was humming, resonating, locked into a rhythm not of its own making. Scientists warned that resonance is one of the most destructive forces in nature, the same principle that can shatter glass or collapse bridges when frequencies align. If Earth is now vibrating in tune with a cosmic visitor, then the quakes we've seen may be only the first movements of a much larger symphony, one in which the planet itself becomes the instrument. While the ground shivered, the skies above told their own story. Magnetometers around the world registered sudden, sharp anomalies in Earth's magnetic shield. These weren't the smooth fluctuations of ordinary geomagnetic storms. They came in jolts, abrupt spikes of energy appearing almost in rhythm with the same intervals traced in the seismographs. In Canada and Norway, auroras surged unexpectedly far south, dancing above cities unprepared for their sudden glow. In Japan, airline pilots reported temporary radio blackouts and compass drift. Satellites orbiting Earth momentarily lost orientation as if tugged by invisible currents. And through it all, the data kept pointing back to the same cosmic source. 3I Atlas, pulsing its crimson light, its influence bleeding across the heliosphere and into Earth's most delicate systems. It was no longer possible to see the quakes, the auroras, the signals as separate events. They were threads in the same tapestry, woven by the arrival of an object that should have been nothing more than a comet, but had become something far greater and far more dangerous. Then came confirmation from our neighbor. As 3I Atlas swept closer to Mars, instruments on board orbiters recorded electromagnetic spikes rippling through its thin atmosphere. More chilling were the reports from the InSight lander, which captured seismic disturbances, Marsquakes, that seemed to coincide with the crimson pulses of the interstellar visitor. Mars, a planet without Earth's oceans or complex tectonic systems, was still trembling in time with the same cosmic rhythm. For planetary scientists, this was the final piece of evidence. 3I Atlas wasn't just influencing Earth's fragile systems through coincidence. It was radiating something powerful enough to resonate with multiple worlds at once, a force that reached across millions of miles. If Mars can be shaken by its presence, then Earth, with its oceans, crust, and magnetic field, may be far more vulnerable. Mars has become the mirror, showing us what's already happening in our own skies and beneath our own feet, only hinting at how much worse it can get. Viewed together, the picture is terrifying. Novas erupt in synchrony with earthquakes. The sun lashes out with coronal mass ejections, only to see 3I Atlas flare brighter, feeding on the chaos. Earth trembles with quakes that match the comet's pulse. Oceans ripple with unaccountable vibrations. Auroras dance where they shouldn't, and Mars quakes under the same influence. What we are witnessing is no longer random, no longer coincidence. It is resonance, a system-wide chain reaction pulling stars, planets, and comets into the same rhythm. And the timing could not be more ominous. October is drawing near, when 3I Atlas will pass near Mars, align in conjunction with Earth, and share the heavens with Comet Swan as both comas expand to extraordinary sizes. It will be a convergence unlike any in recorded history, and if the opening movements of this cosmic symphony have already shaken continents and lit novas, then what follows may redefine not just astronomy, but survival itself. As Earth's crust trembled and its magnetosphere pulsed in strange rhythms, the oceans themselves began to display anomalies that scientists could not dismiss. Buoys in the Pacific detected long-period swells, waves that had no storm to drive them and no seismic rupture to explain them. The currents shifted unpredictably, with warm water surging northward in sudden bursts, colliding with cold flows in ways that defied seasonal models. Fishermen off the coasts of South America reported unusual bioluminescent blooms, glowing waves that stretched across the night sea in patterns eerily similar to the pulsing intervals of 3I Atlas. It was as if the oceans, Earth's largest and most dynamic system, had started to answer back, resonating with the visitor in the sky. For oceanographers, the dread was clear. If the oceans begin to amplify the rhythm, they could become the delivery system for chaos, turning silent pulses into storms, tsunamis, and disruptions that ripple across the entire planet. Meanwhile, the sun showed no sign of calming. By late September, more than 160 sunspots scarred its face, each one a wound of magnetic energy. On September 28th, it unleashed an M6.4 class flare, one of the strongest of the cycle, hurling a coronal mass ejection directly into the path of 3I Atlas. For an ordinary comet, this would have been catastrophic. But instead of shrinking, the crimson object responded with yet another surge of brightness, its coma swelling like a living thing absorbing the blow. Observers noted strange plasma filaments wrapping around it, structures that twisted and coiled like the arms of some colossal organism. Each interaction with the sun seemed less like a battle and more like a dialogue, the star roaring, the comet responding, both locked in an exchange that humans could barely comprehend. And all the while, Earth stood downstream, caught between a furious sun and an object that refused to obey the laws of nature. Historians, once sidelined in these debates, now found their voices suddenly relevant. Records from ancient civilizations were scoured, and the parallels were undeniable. The Chinese wrote of red broom stars that preceded famines and quakes. Babylonian tablets described torches in the heavens followed by floods and the collapse of great walls. The Aztecs feared the serpents of fire that appeared in their skies before their world was turned upside down. For centuries, modern science dismissed these accounts as myth, as fear born of ignorance. But now, with 3I Atlas glowing crimson, novas detonating in the skies, the sun flaring with relentless power, and Earth itself trembling, those voices no longer sounded like superstition. They sounded like warning. Perhaps our ancestors didn't misunderstand what they saw. Perhaps they understood it all too well, recording the same chain reaction we are experiencing now. And if their stories are repeating, then the disasters they feared may also be preparing to repeat. Perhaps the most disturbing development was not in the skies, but on Earth. Public agencies grew quieter as the evidence mounted. NASA's official updates became bland and vague, describing the crimson glow as unexpected variability. Seismological data from certain regions appeared late, edited, or missing altogether. Magnetospheric anomalies once detailed in real time were reduced to brief, sanitized bulletins. And while the official narrative softened, leaks from insiders painted a very different picture. Of emergency meetings held behind closed doors, of space weather reports marked classified, of scientists warned not to publish their most alarming findings. The louder the sky roared, the quieter human institutions became. For many, that silence became the loudest confirmation of all, that those who know the most are also the most afraid. And so the world watches the crimson beacon in the sky, pulsing steadily, resonating with Earth, while the voices meant to reassure us fade into silence. The story of 3I Atlas was supposed to be one of curiosity, another interstellar fragment crossing our skies, a scientific treasure to study before it vanished back into the void. But instead, it has become something far more ominous. In just weeks, our world has trembled with devastating earthquakes. Our oceans have pulsed with unexplained rhythms. Novas have erupted in uncanny synchrony, and the sun itself has been drawn into a violent dialogue with this crimson visitor. Each event, taken alone, could be explained away as coincidence. But together, they form a pattern that is impossible to ignore. A pattern of resonance stretching from distant stars to the deepest trenches of our planet. The silence from those in power speaks louder than any official report. Data has vanished, words have been softened, and voices that once explained the cosmos now speak in riddles or not at all. And yet, above us, the truth shines in plain sight. A hostile glow, pulsing like a heartbeat, one that Earth itself has already begun to echo. If this is only the beginning, then the future chapters of this story may hold consequences we cannot yet imagine. Perhaps the ancients were right when they feared the arrival of crimson comets. Perhaps they understood what we are only now rediscovering, that the heavens do not move in silence, and when they roar, the earth roars with them. 3I Atlas's arrival has already shaken our planet. The question is not whether it will happen again. The question is how much stronger the resonance will become, and what happens when the rhythm reaches its peak. This is no longer just a comet, it is a catalyst, and the world is only beginning to feel its power.